Hey First Alliance family, this is Paul Smith coming on our second video blog. And once again, thanks so much for joining me at these times. This is a time where I get a little bit extra to share with you what's going on in the life of our congregation, what God's doing, and to fill you in because we want to communicate well. Have you ever noticed that the word church is spelled two ways? The first way it is spelled is with a capital C, and the second way it is spelled is with a lowercase c. Why is that? Well, the uppercase C means the church universal, Jesus' church throughout the world, and the lowercase c means a local church, like our church. First Alliance is a local church, and each lowercase local church is part of the uppercase universal global church. Jesus said about his church universal, his church throughout the world, that the gates of hell will not prevail against it, that it will go on forever, that Jesus is building his church throughout the world. And we're part of the Christian Missionary Alliance, part of Jesus' global work. That's his big C church. But we are also a little c church. And Jesus spoke to local churches in the book of Revelation. In the book of Revelation, there are 7 churches. And through the Apostle John, Jesus speaks specifically and clearly to each one of these local churches. And he has, for each one of these local churches, a vision specifically tailored for them, where they're at, the challenges that they face, and how he's calling them to believe him. You see, each local church has to hear from Jesus how he's calling them to believe him. He wants every local church to have a vibrant, dynamic faith where they are trusting God. Yes, they're part of the church universal throughout the world, but they know specifically, because they've heard from Jesus, how he's calling them locally to trust him. He wants each local church to have a vibrant faith of trust and belief, because each church has its own challenges and each church has its own opportunities. We are at a time in the life of our church where we are in the process of hearing from God. God, how are you calling us to believe you anew? God has done some great things in our past. We've got a great tradition to build on. But we also know that to whom much is given, much is expected. And we're in the process of saying, Jesus, how do you want us to believe you? How do you want us specifically to have impact with the resources of people, with the resources of our facility, with the resources of influence? How are you calling us to trust you anew? Well, as a leadership team, we are leaning into Jesus, and we are leaning into each other on wanting to hear from Jesus specifically what that is. And you'll hear more about that in the future. But in this video blog, I want to invite you into this process. Here's why, and here's how. In the first 6 weeks of the new year, we are having a sermon series called Deep and Wide. And also, that evening, we're having what's called the Deep and Wide Experience. When I think of Jesus' vision for the local church, it's deep. Deep with God and deep with each other. Not shallow, deep. But not only deep, but it's wide in influence. And so for the first 6 weeks of the new year, each message will revolve around the theme of going deep with God, deep with each other, and wide in influence in the world and what it means for this local church. There will be several speakers in this series. I will take 2 of the messages, but also Henry Passanon will take a message. He was a Christian Missionary Alliance missionary for several years in Europe. Our district superintendent, Ed Mangum, will take a message. Dave Thomas will also take a message. He's been significant in the life of our church. And then also Matthew Sleeth will take a message talking about how to share your faith with an individual using God's creation of a tree. So there are 6 weeks of not just hearing from me, but from other individuals about what it means for a local church and an individual in a local church to go deep with God and then wide in the influence in the world. Now this is the difference. For each night, for the first 6 weeks, Sunday nights, except for the first week in February, we're going to get back on Monday. The first week in February is going to be a Monday. You will come back as a congregation, anybody who's interested. You'll come back that night and we will talk through the morning message as a church. What did it mean? What's its implication? How did it hit you? What was a new aha moment for you? And that will start at 5:30 and it'll go from 5:30 to 6:30. We'll talk through the message and then we will pray through the message as a church, as a congregation. We'll ask God to make it real, to make it known. We'll ask God to have it be part of who we are. I think it's significant that when a church seeks vision from the Lord, that the entire church is involved, that the entire church is part of the process. And so this is my opportunity for you to get your calendar ready. Take that calendar and say the first 6 weeks of the new year, I want to have a part in that deep and wide experience. Hearing from the Lord on Sunday morning, come back that evening and to kind of talk it through and pray it through as a congregation. When a congregation hears from the Lord, when they know, yes, this is how God's calling us to trust Him, it is a dynamic, awe-inspiring experience for them and for the next generation that follows them. And I know God's inviting us into that. And I want to invite you into that as well. I'm so excited in being your pastor, and I look so forward to the days to come. Thanks so much.
Hi church, my name is Dan McPherson. I'm the high school pastor here at First Alliance, and we are excited about this Deep and Wide series that's coming up as we think about what it means to have a vision for this church in particular. And we want as many people to be able to come to the Sunday night gatherings as possible. And so how we're going to do that, one way we're going to do that, is provide childcare for those who have children but would like to come. And it will be a fundraiser for those high school students and leaders going to the Life Conference. Life is a conference opened to all Alliance youth across the nation. It happens every 3 years. And we have about 40 students and 15 leaders signed up so far to go. And they need to raise money, and this is a great way to do that and provide you a service so that you can come and participate in the gatherings each Sunday night. We hope you take advantage of this, and we'd love to see you there. Thanks so much.